Earnestly podcast. Welcome back, Mr. Francois, Marc François, one of the alums of this podcast after 12 years.
How we
My
doing?
man.
How we doing? Good
How's New York?
afternoon.
How's New York treating you, buddy?
Man, I like it here. I like it here a lot. New York is dope.
That's saying something for a guy who worships California.
No, but I mean, we've talked about it a lot. This was a dream, and it's it's not without its challenges. It's not an easy place. It's not an easy place to get by. It's I feel like every time I walk out my apartment, I've lost $100. But no, man, it's awesome.
What new place? You got a new place now officially?
Yeah. I've been settled in for a few months, so
Okay.
yeah, on Long Island.
You were sharing that you're still trying to get settled in, not fully settled in yet. You still work on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always a process.
Yeah, we want to start, man. We have so much shit, dude. What is going on with the GOP now? The McCarthy now bye ousted from the House seat as of Tuesday.
In a word, chaos. I mean, it's never happened before that a speaker's been vacated, but I mean,
first time, right? First time ever.
Yeah. So there was one vote. There was one vote that failed in 1910, something like that.
Okay.
And then no, a speaker's never been vacated before. But Kevin McCarthy has been a completely disingenuous actor since 2021. He was one of the first ones to come out with like a pretty staunch stance in opposition to January 6th and the stolen election narrative and all that. And then, fast forward not very much, and he's at Mar-a-Lago having a beer with Trump and taking pictures, and suddenly none of that matters anymore. And he's been doing that. He got the what was that 45-day stopgap done to keep the government open. But then he turns right around and goes on Face the Nation and flames the Democrats and says that they were the impediment to getting the bill passed. It's like, huh? Like, your whole caucus hates you. You're gonna do that? All right.
That's where I'm get lost, because on one hand, McCarthy's a sniveling, slimy little fuck. We agree with that.
Yeah, he's as smarmy as they come.
But MAGA hates him. All my MAGA friends hate him too. They can't stand the guy.
Yeah, it's he has been balancing like on a razor's edge for 10 months since he got the speakership, which took 15 tries historically or something. Also, so
that was classic. Was he last year?
You knew he was on borrowed time basically from day one, especially because there was the unprecedented deal he made with Matt Gaetz, where he conceded that it only would take one person to put a motion to vacate, to bring a motion to vacate to the floor or something. And so whenever Matt Gaetz felt like he needed attention, he's like, okay, guess we'll pull that lever now. I haven't been in the news for a minute.
So like the complaint on that side of y'all is that McCarthy is too establishment. That's the complaint I hear. Is that everything I don't like because he's too establishment?
It really doesn't matter, because look, top to bottom, how many Republicans are there in the House that are actually level-headed, willing to work, and capable of doing anything? They've been the mission and the platform has been to obstruct and to overturn Roe for the better part of 20 years now, 25 years. I mean, 30 if you count Newt Gingrich.
Right.
But there's never really been policy and solutions being put forth. It's slash entitlements, deregulate. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Union bust, bank bailouts, but they have no solutions. They have no policy. And then, that was kind of a smoldering thing for a while. And Donald Trump just walked in and poured a whole bunch of gasoline on it by, being a completely disingenuous actor.
Because
from the jump.
Because I feel kind of weird. On one hand, I'm laughing about McCarthy getting ousted because it's.
When you follow this stuff, parts of it are funny. I mean, you have to laugh to keep from crying, if nothing else.
Right. But on the other hand, okay, so now you oust McCarthy, and now you got possibly Jim Jordan becoming a possible name thrown in the hat. I heard Steve Scalise's name thrown in the hat. I've even heard that possibly Donald Trump might be a name in the hat. Which, by the way, why would he get involved in that if he's running for president?
I mean, at this point, Donald Trump needs to worry about maintaining legal eligibility to be president with 91 indictments filed against him in 5 different courts. and a summary judgment pending in the New York New York civil fraud case.
And the guy Gore just got thrown.
Yeah,
on top
I
of it.
mean, yeah. So the judge. So right there, judge already issued the summary judgment dissolving his companies effectively, or the most of his entities, and moving forward with they're appealing it, but he's moving forward. I think he said an October 26th deadline for them to assign a receiver for all of those entities. And he's moving forward to bar the Trump kids from ever being able to basically do business in the state of New York again. So,
right,
I'd be worried about staying in the race, and because I think honestly, if we want to like touch on the GOP race, it's like
we could do it right now. Yeah, absolutely,
Matt, might as well, right? Easy pivot point. They're all competing for the day he's the 14th Amendment kneecaps him or something.
Which is what again to the listeners?
There's I don't know the specific citation, but basically there's articles out there, you can Google it. But there's an argument to be made that Donald Trump is already ineligible to be president based on stipulations in the 14th Amendment as to like eligibility to hold federal office. But obviously, if he's convicted of a federal crime, even one, pretty sure you're ineligible to be president. You're not eligible to vote. Why would you be eligible? Why would you be legally capable of being president?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The 14th Amendment. I don't see anything really in protection of the.
There was an article I read from some nerdy paper explaining how certain clauses of the 14th Amendment restrict you, and it has to. But I mean, either way, you can't be president if you're convicted of a federal crime. So,
right. But it's funny because, like, I think that's why you still see. That's what they're basically. I think that's what the rest of the field is banking on. Well, this is why I think it's still important, like, because this idea that Trump's running away right now with the lead, and I agree with that, and he's going to win nomination. But if we still have a inkling of something hanging over the head of the party, 14th Amendment, him going to jail. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying these things are hanging over the head.
Yeah.
Okay. This is why these debates are important still. This is why these debates are still important. This is why.
Well, yeah, because I mean, they're running to be the running mate, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe that's true for a little while.
Yeah.
But like I said, if he gets convicted of any of these crimes, like, done.
Because right now you have DeSantis obviously. Probably still in second, barely, but slipping in the polls massively. You can see,
and Nikki Haley pulled ahead in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I saw that. Ramaswamy had a little moment for a couple of weeks, and now he's kind of the more he talks, the more he hurts himself. To be honest with you, makes himself so unlikable.
Yeah.
Obviously, Doug Berger had a little bump in the polls this week after the debate last week. I don't know why he's in the race, to be honest with you. Tim Scott has been filling. Chris Christie is just there just to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
So
and Larry Elder keeps pounding on the door because they won't let him in.
I'll be honest with you, I do think it's still unfair. I'm not even a fan of his, but I think it's unfair that he should be allowed to debate.
Why?
He's
not anywhere.
If there are rules,
he's not a serious candidate. I mean, he wasn't.
Oh, we agree to that. But if he's getting enough, doing the things necessary to get to the debate,
by the way, I think DeSantis is about to torpedo his campaign debating Gavin Newsom on November 30th.
Yeah, let's talk about it real quick. So DeSantis obviously realizes that his poll numbers were sinking.
Yeah, that was one of the. I mean, you talked about wanting to discuss the Bill Maher interview.
Yeah,
we kind of talk about those two things together, if you will, because I think the Gavin Newsom debate came up in the Bill Maher interview.
Well, right. Let's go to first with the Newsom thing, because I see all the upside of Gavin Newsom, all the upside, because he's already, by many people believe that he's already trying to become a shadow presidential candidate, if not in 24, definitely in 28.
I think, by 2028, he's going to be just another old white guy. And while he did some good stuff, I think we really need to move away from old white guys.
Is he that old though?
I mean, he's in his what, 50s now?
Let me see now. He looks young.
No, I mean, he is like a vibrant and healthy dude. I'm not trying to impugn that or like hang a Joe Biden, Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah, he's mid 50s right now.
Yeah. So okay. So what? That's another 5 years. That's early 60s. So
he used to bang Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Yeah, I think they
Well,
were
they're
married.
actually married.
I think they were married. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how that was. Interesting. Anyway, but I think that debate idea. I actually like the idea of that. I think
Not for DeSantis.
no, right. But I think as a U.S. citizen, who you and I are in the same boat. We want policy. We talk about policy.
I think okay.
It's healthy.
I think yeah. In a vacuum, the idea of two up and come people whose national profile is growing or is known but not widely spoken to, people just kind of know what they hear. I think having a conversation, a debate like that, a town hall like that is actually really interesting. Now, for DeSantis's people, if they haven't done their homework, Gavin Newsom, I believe, is going to mop the floor with him unless he just runs around and just keeps changing the subject, because he's not charismatic. He's not a great public speaker. He doesn't do well on television. He's super awkward just by nature. Gavin Newsom's probably like 4 or 5 inches taller than him.
Yeah,
I think it's honestly it's to me, it has all the makings of the sort of moment that gets remembered and written about in the same way that like the Kennedy Nixon one did.
Yeah. Nixon with the sweat and all that stuff. Yeah, and Kennedy because he had
the flu. Yeah. And I mean, if like actually, if you really dig into that debate, like Nixon didn't make bad points. He actually made really solid arguments in a number of ways. But what everybody remembers is that he looked like shit on TV, and
optics
matter. Kennedy looked like he was going to go boxing and play golf after the debate. But no, I think when you look at the numbers, one of the things that people like Ron DeSantis love to do is point to homelessness and poverty and crime. It's like the crime, yes, the number of crimes in California far surpass the number of crimes in Florida because there's 17 million more people in California than Florida. But when you start getting into like the actual rates, things are pretty negligible. The median home price in Florida is half that of California. That's true. But, for example, homelessness is on the decline in Florida in the last few years. It's down like 46%. But what was discovered by the Guardian in like 2017 is that's because they just bus their homeless people to another state, or their unhoused people to another state.
So it's a misnomer. It's actually this.
Yeah, they're not doing it. They're not doing anything to solve homelessness. It's not like they're building transitional housing that's not carceral. It's not like they're meaningfully combating poverty and food security and access to mental health and medical health. They're not doing any of those things in Florida. So how if you're not addressing any of the underlying causes of homelessness, how could you possibly be solving homelessness? But if you're shipping them to Georgia or shipping them to Arkansas or anywhere else that's not Florida,
So it says something though.
And California is a frequent recipient of those unhoused people from neighboring states.
True. It does say something to me anyway that Gavin Newsom is willing to do this debate, even knowing that it will be on, to be honest with you, DeSantis' home turf, in a sense. It'll be on Fox News.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get
Fox crowd.
He's going to get booed, and DeSantis is going to get cheap applause.
No, but to my point, he doesn't care.
I mean, the facts are on his side. He's done some things that I don't agree with. I don't like that he didn't sign the bill to give union workers unemployment coverage while striking. I thought that was a smack in the face to labor. He vetoed a bill about considering gender affirmation in family court with regard to custody battles. I don't agree with that. But as a whole, like if you want to look at his total scorecard, he's signed a lot of legislation into law that I agree with. And so the measures they both don't really have a leg to stand on with regard to addressing the underlying causes of homelessness. Gavin Newsom's done a bit more, really addressing like poverty and whatnot. But as a whole, Gavin Newsom doesn't run around saying horrible things about migrants and enacting terrible policies that go against, say, medical direction. I think he's really going to get hammered on his record relative to trans rights, gay rights.
DeSantis.
Yeah, but
one could argue that one could argue that's
yeah.
why he's down in the polls. One could argue that's why in general elections down in the polls right now.
I think
primary.
I think the moderates that you and I always talk about, the independent voters that tend to really kind of play it down the middle, call it center right, because America's national discourse is really kind of more right leaning than other.
You think so?
Other comparable, dude. I mean, just look at any EU country and how their parliaments are set up, even British Parliament. Like, you have.
You mean the actual the
overall like where America's left and right fall nationally on the overall political spectrum. It's like, yeah, we're kind of a right leaning.
The country, I think the citizens are probably center left, and the setup of the government is definitely center right.
That's what I mean.
To your point, right? Okay,
yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's clear it up.
Yeah.
No, but for DeSantis now, initially when I heard this debate was going to happen in November, I'm thinking, well, there's no upside for DeSantis to do this. Why would he do this? Now, this actually took his campaign more. But then I thought about it too.
I think it's going to give, frankly, a bunch of upward momentum to Nikki Haley, because it's going to further. He's going to say a bunch of wild shit to get applause lines in Georgia while Gavin Newsom is beating him up. And it's going to make Nikki Haley look more and more as the rational. Like, I think she's going to consistently perform well in the primaries.
She's a good debater.
And by the time we get to, I mean, I don't like most of the policies,
of course.
But when you look at the landscape of what the GOP field is, yeah,
she's enormous of the crazy.
She's the least crazy I see.
Yeah, because for example, the thing on abortion, she may have her personal views on abortion, but she recognizes that.
Yeah,
6 weeks to
don't get it twisted.
No, right.
Anyone that's campaigning for that nomination is going to fall in line with the Federalist Society the minute they get the nod. Like, that's
if they get the votes, yeah, they get the numbers, yeah, they would.
So I don't. Yeah, she could say whatever she wants about abortion access, but reproductive health care, but like, I don't believe a word she says, because, like I said, if she were to get the nomination, she's gonna fall right in line with,
because she actually doesn't believe it. Ultimately, in her mind, she
just wants to. She like most politicians, just wants power.
And that's why, like, I can't stand Mike Pence, but at least he owns that. He owns that field. I don't believe in. I believe from conception.
Yeah,
I agree with him on that.
He's really
but at
scary.
But at least he owns that. At least this is who I am. I hate it. I hate it too. Get me wrong.
At least he's honest about his crazy.
Right. I mean, exactly.
Well, I can't stand Mike Pence.
Would you rather lie to you about it?
I would rather him not be a figure in national politics.
I agree. I mean, he's a scary dude. He's more right leaning than probably anyone on that stage.
Yeah, at least, especially when you start getting into like the Christo-fascist stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Right. No. Back to the DeSantis quick though. If he were to actually do well in this debate with Newsom, though, this could actually give him some upside going forward and help his campaign.
Yeah. I mean, it probably doesn't hurt as primary, because there's nobody. I mean, it's really, to me, it's between he and Nikki Haley. That's the only reasonable conversation being had on the right.
Yeah.
To me, I don't. That guy's a joke. Time, like you said, every time he opens his mouth, he falls farther behind.
Yeah.
So
DeSantis is definitely desperate, because he was on Bill Maher last week. Bill Maher makes his return to TV after the strike.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
Oh no, I'm talking about right now. I'm going to show you the interview right now, actually, as we speak.
No, I mean, okay, we're gonna. Well, no, I want to call Bill Maher out in the way that.
Go ahead. As I'm saying up now, go ahead.
As you know, especially the way he welcomed back the show. He basically didn't acknowledge the strike. He didn't show any kind of solidarity with the WGA. He was basically just glad to be back. Thanks for everybody for putting it together. But didn't really acknowledge, any of the things that you're supposed to do, or, like I said, show any solidarity with, say, the people that are still striking, anything like that. He's just a rich guy who wants to stay rich, and he's honestly falling. He's a chud in a blue suit. Like, I mean, he's right wing. Like, when you look at the way
I can't go that far, Mark, with you. Even though I agree that he's an ass. Look, my wife won't tell you that I've never liked him the person, because I thought he was, even with his left wing politics, he's always been an elitist asshole.
Okay, but he's the guy in Weimar world that, like, is half the reason. Like that, it's the people to the middle that fell to the Nazis because they're like, well, I can't stand all these woke cores.
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I mean, he cheered on DeSantis's comments about wokeism, and it was an idea of ideology when he was talking.
That shit fucking annoying. That whole thing to him, his view on what, like, I agree with him on climate change and all that.
Because it's just a dog whistle. It's just a dog whistle for progress in general, but really you're talking about racial and gender equality.
And he falls in that because of the fact that that word woke has gotten.
And anyone who's calling it that for that reason doesn't know what the word means in the first fucking place.
And it's funny that a lot of my right wing friends ask what woke means, and they have no fucking clue what it means. No clue. I think, no, that's not what it means. If you're gonna use the word, at least get the fucking definition correct.
Tell me you don't have any black friends without saying you don't have any black friends. Misuse woke like that. Indict wokeism.
Right. So we'll play a little bit of this interview from DeSantis on Maher last week. My wife saw the interview on Monday, and she was grossly disappointed because
I saw some clips, and I read a bunch of recaps. I can't stand either of them long enough to watch the whole damn thing.
Well, this is only a couple minutes of the interview here. Do you see the screen there?
Okay. There it comes. Okay.
All right, here we go. So you can hear this.
He is the governor of Florida, who is currently on our show. Currently running to be the Republican.
He doesn't drill him enough on this, in my opinion.
2024, Governor Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, that was one of the recaps I read. Said is like he did a bunch of whataboutism crap, and Bill Maher didn't hold his feet to the fire.
Yeah,
right. On a scale
very
of
little.
9 to 10, what'd you think of my monologue?
Honestly, I was laughing. I'll give you that.
Right,
laughing on both sides of the aisle too. So it was good. And welcome back to the show. I know you guys were on hiatus for a while.
Thank you.
Hiatus.
He's so awkward.
Hiatus. That's what we're calling it.
Yeah.
Like, have problems in California, in Florida. Not only we have no income tax, no vax mandates allowed in the state of Florida.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
You got a couple times on some things.
Pandering to the Fox News watchers tuning in for once in their life.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's just a crazy thing.
We're proud of it.
But there were no cowboys in Florida, Ron.
You should try Florida. We're one of the
top his look apparently has sparked a debate again about whether or not he wears lifts in his shoes.
Who, DeSantis?
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I stand corrected.
That was one of the pieces I saw when I was doing the research
because
for
I'm
before.
wearing orthopedic shoes.
There you go.
Okay, so the debate, it was a shit show, but right. I mean, even you said you would have turned it off if you were watching. I mean, people screaming over each other. I couldn't hear what anyone was saying. It was terrible. But I heard you won. I heard the polling said you won. What did you win? With Trump? No, honestly.
This is where he got good.
That's funny.
He's
funny.
He's missing an action. He owes it to voters to show up and defend his record. And I think he thinks he can take a juice poll.
I do agree with that,
actually. And then people don't get to vote.
But
That's not
it
doesn't matter. This guy doesn't matter.
In a poli-sci class, but he's up like 46.5 points or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I was the one guy that people said, you know what, this guy's
it's not a contest.
Like a president,
right.
The rest
it really isn't.
And so,
the voters have decided. They've seen what they need to see.
Debate. I'm debating your governor, Gavin Newsom.
We're going to get to that.
But let's do a debate with me and him. I'll do it.
All right. But can I ask you one thing about these debates?
Can you
get rid of this guy, Doug Burgum? This guy,
he's so awkward.
This bugs me. He is not going to be president.
I don't even know who that is.
This guy could start dating Taylor Swift. No one would care.
That's fucking hysterical.
God, he just looks so uncomfortable.
I'm telling you, he does.
But,
he has no charisma.
Take my advice.
What was it?
I
was on this show a few times when we talked. I said,
this guy's crazy into his boots.
He's, what are you, 45 years old?
Yeah.
You just had a birthday, right?
Yeah.
You could run for the next 20 years. If you were Biden, the next 40.
God help us.
Yep.
Okay.
God help us.
Why run against Trump? You're trying to thread this needle that will never happen.
Well, for a couple reasons.
You can't disavow him because that's the base, and yet you're running against him, and that's why. I mean, let's face it, Ron.
He can't say because once he gets convicted, I'm the front runner. Can't say that though.
No. So, one, I don't think he can win the election.
Oh, really?
I could win the election. Two,
Yeah.
I don't think he could actually get the job
bullshit.
done that we
Patently ridiculous, but
COVID.
Go on.
I think we need accountability for what this government did to this country with the COVID restrictions, mandates, and lockdowns. Donald Trump is not going to He says he did everything.
His
right.
state had
He
one of
says
the
he
highest
saved
death and
millions of
infection
lives
rates in the
with
That's right.
country.
His mRNA
Exactly.
shot saved 100
Oh.
He's not going to clean house at CDC, NIH, FDA, right? That.
Hold on, I'm going
going
to tell you right now,
Get the job done
and
in a
you and
lot
I
of
think we debated this in the past already. I actually do not necessarily. I actually defended how he handled COVID initially.
Vaccine
I-
mandates, I'll give you, but just on its face, point for point, really doesn't matter at this point. We're
Right.
3 years removed. The point is, he didn't listen to doctors. Like he didn't listen to doctors.
It got he
And
handled it well for the first
he
couple months.
fired the ones. He fired the ones that wouldn't stand by what he said.
Right. And he politicized it in the end too. Ultimately, that's
Yeah,
when he lost
and
me.
you
When he started politicizing it.
You just can't. You can't politicize a fucking pandemic. Like
No,
people
right.
were dying at incredible rates. Like, yeah, I won't accept any of their bullshit arguments to defend the governors like him and the shit that they did during the pandemic.
By the way,
I mean, it was proven out in the death rates. The death and infection rates were higher in states like Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, Alabama. Like,
yeah. By the way, he'll actually confess that January 6th was actually I'm sorry. He'll confess. I don't think he knew this because Bill Maher kind of cornered him. That he'll confess that the election was not rigged. You'll see in a second.
Things we do. The one thing about Mr. Florida, and even my critics will acknowledge, if he says he's going to do something, he will follow through and get the job done. So it's about the country. Are we going to get the country turned around or not? I don't think he's a vehicle that's doing. And I have been when I supported him.
A vehicle that's doing.
I've said it.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Way to drop your G there.
That's for real.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to do that.
Okay, but you.
Okay, right here. I think right here.
He's so bad.
But you campaigned
Here we go. Here.
for election deniers in 2022. This I do not forgive.
Well,
To
look.
quote The Godfather. I mean, Carrie Lake, who said Biden's an illegitimate president. Trump didn't.
Well, now she's attacking me, so maybe I did make a mistake there because she's out there saying she's trying to say that we mandated vax in Florida when we did the opposite. We protected people even from private mandates. So that may have been.
But Trump lost the election, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
See, you missed right there.
You
You say yeah. You heard he said you missed that, right? That's right there. He goes, told us the election. Yeah. Watch.
He said, but Trump lost the election.
She's trying to say that
Watch right here.
mandated vax in Florida when we did the opposite. We protected people
right over
even
here
from private mandates. So that may have been.
But Trump lost the election, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
See?
So why did you
See?
campaign for people who?
Because I wanted to see Republicans win key races.
And
I think it's important.
That's not a deal breaker issue for you. That's not democracy.
Well, okay. Well, let's go back to 2016. Your
Oh
friends
my
in
God, here we go
Hollywood were
again.
cutting ads telling the electoral.
Okay, hold on. Pause it really quick.
Right. Yeah. Go
Hold
ahead.
on.
Go ahead.
He is going to draw a comparison. So let's be clear about what he's referring to.
Right.
At the approaching the close of the 2016 election, the cast of The West Wing got together and did an ad basically highlighting, a constitutional abnormality, whatever you want to call it, but that electors are effectively allowed to go against the
Right.
popular vote if they want. So that was not endorsed by the Clinton campaign.
Right.
That was not endorsed by the DNC.
Correct.
No attempt to overturn the election was made by Hillary Clinton or the DNC.
Right.
No lawsuits were filed. The morning after, the election was declared at 10 p.m. on Eastern time, 11 p.m. Eastern on election night. And
actually, later than
that.
It's actually 2 a.m. actually, election night. It was 2 a.m.
Oh, okay. She promptly, it was 11 in California. That's what it was.
Right, true.
She promptly conceded the next morning.
Congratulated
Donald Trump and retired to the Catskills or wherever the hell she lives. But drawing the comparison between that, a fictional TV show's cast of 5 people making a really far off point that may technically be true, and say January 6th
An
and
actual
the election,
insurrection.
Yeah, a literal attempted coup on the seat of our government and the attempted murder of Mike Pence and a number of other elected officials.
But hey,
and then the subsequent wave of candidates that tried to ride that to say that that was Antifa and the FBI and the communists and Stalin risen from the grave, or God knows what the fuck else they came up with.
Yeah.
But to sit there and then try to draw a comparison between those two is such gross whataboutism that doesn't hold any water. And it just goes to show he's not a serious candidate. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Okay, maybe he's a lawyer. Sure. But like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
The worst part is
or worse is he does and he doesn't care.
The worst part is the constituents will eat this shit up as fucking fact. That's the worst part. That's the worst part.
That's what happens when misinformation is allowed to run rampant and social media companies aren't regulated.
Right. So that's 20 seconds here.
Trump in the Electoral College because it was stolen. They said Russia stole the election. For years they said
Russia influenced the election, not stolen.
No, okay. There was a very, very, very tiny sect of people on the left, on the far. There's tinfoil hats on every side of the political spectrum.
Of course, agreed.
So yes, there were some tinfoil hat leftists out there that did allege that Russia changed some votes. That was patently completely absurd.
Here's what's fact, though. This is fact because Putin said himself,
Russia
did influence the election. They say, we're not saying they voted.
Well, and I forget the number of
out there.
Defense and intelligence agency directors that all came out and said that Russia interfered in the 2016 election and testified to Congress. So
even fucking Donald Trump asked Russia, Putin, are you out there? Come on.
That is still not, how that wasn't the death knell of his campaign at that moment.
I think that's also to show you how disliked that woman is, though. Honestly.
Well, 100%.
And you don't like her. I don't like her.
No.
But she
was a terrible candidate. It should have been Bernie. Yeah. He would have beat Trump by 11 points.
Yeah, agreed. I agree, 100%. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like whataboutism here, and and the worst part, people eat this shit up, man. Like it's fast.
Yeah, and you know, and Bill Maher didn't hold his feet to the fire or point to any of that. And to say that that's a completely false equivalency, those things are not remotely related to one another. I mean. People have received historic sentences on charges of seditious conspiracy against the United States. Like, what?
Yeah. I don't know, man. My wife was pissed though because, and granted, I believe that he probably came in the show with with some restrictions. Don't talk about Florida. Don't talk about.
Of course.
Don't talk about campaign stuff. That's it. Because my wife was pissed off because he didn't go into the ban the book stuff. He didn't go into the
stuff. I mean, and the fact that Bill Maher would acquiesce to such a ridiculous request and then give that man a platform is fucking irresponsible as a quote unquote journalist.
I think based off the fact, the only issue I have with Barr putting him on the show.
I mean, he's technically a comic, but like, let's be real. Your show is about
politics.
Is about national discourse. So I think it would be safe to say, or fair, that you should be held to something resembling a journalistic standard.
Yeah, but Bill Maher in the past would have been a lot more aggressive with him on shit. The fact he wasn't aggressive with him, it was disappointing. It was disappointing.
He just wanted to start cashing those checks again. He wanted the show back up and running, and it was a get. It was a grabby get that was going to pull in a bunch of new viewers and help juice ad buys.
Yeah. What else did we miss since we last spoke on the podcast in the political sphere?
Oh God, probably a lot.
we last spoke when, like March?
I think so. Yeah.
At least the spring.
It was March or April.
I mean,
it's been a wave of
Feinstein passed away last week.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean,
rest in peace, obviously, but still.
She did a lot of really shit.
No. Agreed.
She flew a Confederate flag outside City Hall in the face of anti-racist protest as mayor of San Francisco. So can't forget that one.
April was last time you were on the show. April.
Okay.
Right when he moved to New York, like rapidly cross country trip. No. She should have been. Frankly, should have been out of politics before we were out of high school. Yeah. Oh, this is the one I want to ask you. So I've been watching some stuff recently on the internet. With Kyle Kalinske and his wife Crystal Ball had a podcast done with Brianna Joy Gray. You know who she is, right?
That name sounds.
She's on The Rising now. She's on The Rising the last 2 years now. She's a really pretty black girl, black lady in there. Yeah, she's on The Rising now. She's she's actually Bernie's former speaker or whatever to call communications director.
Like communications director.
Right, correct.
Like that. Okay.
And they were having a conversation on the podcast because it was a cross episode between the two shows, and they were having a conversation about the argument of voting blue no matter who. Now, Kyle Kalinske has said that he didn't vote for Joe Biden in 2020 because he just didn't like Joe Biden. But he's been surprised that Joe Biden, the president, is much more progressive on policy than Joe Biden, the senator. And that because of the fact that, in comparison, I'm saying.
I mean, that's true, but he's also rolled over on a bunch of stuff. Like he just stepped aside for a huge border wall extension, which he said
I saw that this morning.
That just crazy. Happened today.
Right. And so the argument came up about
and he's been terrible on immigration policy.
Do you vote blue no matter who because of the whatever because it's closer to your politics, or do you?
I think in this election again, yes, because let's say all right.
Because she said no. She said no.
I mean, for me, it's kind of yes, and here's why. Let's look at the GOP field. Trump versus Biden. Is there really a whole lot different from them in like a lot of the things I would criticize about them? Yeah, there is. But the most obvious things are like they're just too old to do this job. They're out of touch. Even if it's not that they're not healthy enough to do the job. I'm not saying that. They're out of touch. It's like time and time and time again, these septuagenarian and going to be octogenarian politicians just have no idea where the country is on things. I mean, just think about the way Senator Feinstein mocked climate protest children coming and lectured them in the halls of the Capitol. Like that would have been a great that was very recently. It would have been
probably the last time that she looked actually with it.
Yeah, she was already starting to look like the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah. She was like 96.
Yeah, I mean, she was 90 when she passed, but I mean, she's been missing critical votes and judicial appointments on the heels of a presidency where judicial appointments were smashed through by the dozens. At one point, I think John Oliver was keeping account on the number of judicial appointments Trump was able to push through, all these lifetime appointments to the federal bench. And she's absent for that. And that was a huge opportunity for the Biden administration to potentially balance the scales. So, all of these older politicians need to make way. It's like the planet is dying. The government is co-opted on both sides of the aisle. But again, let's look at the front runners here, Biden and Trump. I don't like Biden as a president. I don't agree with a lot of the things he says and does. I think he talks out of both sides of his mouth, and I think he's gone back on a bunch of promises, particularly to the migrant community and others. Mm-hmm. But who's the HUD secretary right now?
Shit, I forgot.
Who's the Secretary of Education right now?
I forgot.
Who's the Treasury Secretary right now?
But there is one, right? Oh, no.
Of course there are.
There wasn't the last administration.
They're not making news because they're not patently unqualified. Making ridiculous statements in front of cameras.
Right.
We know what we because that's the difference between a Trump and a Biden presidency is that, again, don't like Biden, think he's too old for the job, think he has ridiculous gaffes that make for low-hanging fruit for right-wing agitators and the Ben Shapiros of the world. All true. But there are qualified people at every appointed position around him that are, actually whether or not I agree with what they're doing, they're at least qualified to do their jobs.
Can't say the same
about Steve Mnuchin was not qualified to be Treasury Secretary. Betsy DeVos was not qualified to be Education Secretary. Not Herman Cain.
Ben Carson?
Ben Carson. Excuse me. Thank you. Yeah, Herman Cain died of COVID. Ben Carson was not qualified to be HUD Secretary. So the fact that isn't news, the fact that you don't have all of these really important federal agencies being run by dipshits that don't know what they're doing, the fact that you don't have all these vacant presidential appointments that Trump just didn't do. President Trump doesn't show up to work. Like, listen to the former DHS officials and intelligence officials that go on podcasts that are like staunch conservatives. And they say, we had to draw out in crayon on one page with big spacing and big letters, like entire intelligence briefings, and practically put it into talking points for him that he would understand, or he wouldn't read it. Like, he doesn't show up to fucking work.
I heard that many people in his administration saying this.
Yes. I mean, even Bill Maher, who I think is a legendary asshole.
Yeah.
It's like, he's like, Trump has no business being president. And it's like, if Bill Maher is saying it, like, that guy is an opportunist of the highest order.
Right.
Like, they practically were propping up Reagan with sticks in the 80s. Like,
but Reagan was with it for the most part, though.
No, not the last term. Absolutely not.
Well, maybe the last couple of years, I guess, but certainly the first 4 years.
I mean, think about how old he was. He was president. There was no way he wasn't diagnosed. Probably before he was president. Like, think of I parallel it to like the Jed Bartlett MS mystery diagnosis, in the West Wing.
Which, by the way, my wife and I. So we started watching that 2 years ago during COVID.
Okay.
Season 4, and I stopped. So her and I gonna.
Okay. So you did the Sorkin watch.
Yeah, I think I just.
It does.
The NBA happened. That's what happened.
It does jump the shark a little bit at the end.
It does. Okay.
The later seasons are not as good as the Sorkin seasons.
I love the early. How long was Sorkin on the show for? How long was on the show?
The first 4 seasons, and then the first 2 episodes of the 5th season.
Oh shit!
And then he exited as head writer and showrunner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then it became who's the guy that produced ER? John. I can't think of his name.
Okay, think about it. Anyway, go ahead. I'll continue.
He did Southland. John Wells. Fuck. That's what it was. John Wells.
Okay.
He became the showrunner of and head writer, I believe, for The West Wing.
Yeah, John Wells is correct. Yeah.
Season 5, 6, and 7. So it's not that it's a bad show, but it's a very different show because Aaron Sorkin and John Wells have 2 entirely different styles of show making. And so, the show just takes on a very different direction. Rob Lowe exits. So,
Thanks for the spoilers, buddy. Appreciate it. I'm joking.
If you're 25 years ago.
Yeah, if you call them spoilers 25 years later, you're a fucking moron. Stop.
Yeah, if a show is more than 10 years old, it's not a spoiler.
Thank you. Anything over 2-3 months, you're bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. No.
But yeah.
Vote blue no matter who. She said no.
Just to have qualified people occupying the cabinet, and actually like I said, how many dozens of federally or presidentially appointed key federal positions to ensure that the day-to-day business of the United States government gets done was left, just nobody at the wheel.
Crystal's argument for also doing the same thing that Kyle said is because if anything, Biden has been more pro-labor than she thought he would be, and that alone.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously more pro-labor than anybody on the right, and we're at a historic tipping point as far as access to wealth, labor, productivity versus wages. I think at that point, with exceptions and limitations, of course, like within reason. If it comes down to sort of a binary of who's pro-labor and who isn't, like that's going to be a really easy one for me.
Yeah, Brianna's argument was like, it's not enough for her. She wants to rip the Band-Aid. I see her.
I get the idea of that, but to me, that really disregards the urgent nature of this moment for people who are working class to poor in this country. Right. Because 6 figures is not enough to get by in most major cities.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that? You need to be making $130,000 a year to be able to afford an apartment in most major cities.
It's crazy, and that's insane. That's insanity to me. Insanity.
Yeah. You have private equity funds like the Blackstone Group out there that are active. They're being pretty unapologetic. They want to control something like 2/3 of the available housing in this country by I think 2030. Yeah. That gives them and other similar funds the ability to completely control the housing market. And all you got to do is look at the British occupation of Ireland to know that's really, 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 really bad.
Yeah. All right, let's pivot a little bit here. Have you been following the Trevor Bauer situation?
A little bit. I honestly, I never liked the guy. So
no
like,
one
I was like, okay, as long as he pitches good and doesn't cause too many problems, I guess we got Trevor Bauer now.
But now,
And then all the shit came out about the abuse allegations and stuff, and it was really ugly, and the team separated. So I was like, okay, well, good riddance. And then now it is kind of coming back around that it may not be as bad. He may have been falsely accused.
Mhm.
Is that sort of the nature?
Yeah,
of the
and apparently she wasn't the one that called the police. It was the hospital where she was.
It was
that
like a
called the
mandatory
police.
reporting situation.
I guess so. Yeah, and that's what triggered the whole investigation in the first place.
Okay.
And there's a
that's the system that's the system working the way it's supposed to, because there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of different mitigating circumstances as to why women in those situations.
And I'm not saying
I'm not saying this situation, but I'm
right.
saying in any situation of domestic violence, it's like there's a million different reasons why a victim wouldn't be reporting what's happening to them. So yeah, that to me, just on its face, seems like the system working the way it's supposed to. If the hospital sees something fishy, they report it.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily absolve them either. We don't know for a fact that this was the case, but
yeah,
there is some evidence to say
that's for investigators to figure out.
Right, but he lost his career. He lost his career as a result. Though, a lot of money as a result.
I mean, I gotta think that an entity like the Dodgers, funded by an entity as large as the Guggenheim Group, wields enough private investigative power to do their homework in pretty short order to determine what the best course for the team is. I'm not saying whether he did it or not. I'm not changing my position that I believe I believe victims first. But to me, I would go out on a limb that, when you talk about like teams and leagues having all these former FBI and intelligence officials out there interviewing draft picks, kindergarten teachers, and, like, to me, I got to think that the Dodgers know what they're doing, and they probably wouldn't have taken that. Like they have proven time and again, to, especially under the current ownership, to be a level-headed organization that more often than not makes good decisions.
Yeah.
So I gotta believe that they're choosing to part ways with Trevor Bauer and take the action they did. It's probably well founded.
Fair point. Fair analysis there. As for the Dodgers, you guys start playoffs Saturday. You guys play Atlanta. No,
no.
They play the Diamondbacks.
It's Diamondbacks, yeah.
Arizona,
so
sorry.
Open up at home against Arizona.
I'm sorry, I checked out baseball after July, so don't.
Yeah, that's.
You live in New York. It's a shit show.
I know. I live in the heart. Like I live in the heart of Mets territory.
Yeah, it's a fucking shit show. I gave up in July.
Well, New York baseball in general, the Yankees were ass. It's kind of a weird postseason.
Mark,
what is it? Mark. No Yankees, no Red Sox for the first time since 1990 or something.
Yeah, some shit. Mark, who would have thought that? And look, this can change in the months to come. But as we sit here, the best team in that city is the fucking Knicks right now. Mets are bad. Giants are bad. Jets are bad. Yankees, Mets.
Rangers, Islanders. Islanders made the playoffs.
So the Rangers.
Okay, so hockey. It's a hockey town for now.
Okay, it's an arena town. It's basketball and hockey in New York right now.
Oof.
But how you feel about the Dodgers? How you feel about the Dodgers in playoff chances?
Honestly, I think the only team that has a lineup that stacks. Obviously, the Braves are the best team in baseball. Wire to wire. It's it's just ridiculous how good they've been. And being able to fill a loss like Freddie Freeman. And that's not me like dunking on them. Like that's a massive feat for an executive office to figure out. And they have done the Braves are the best team in baseball by a wide margin. Like nobody's looked as good as them. That said, I mean, especially through the second half, the Dodgers have looked really great. Like the opening of the season was a little rocky. There were a lot of troublesome injuries, losing like Walker Buehler and the cat got Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May. Like that was 3 big hits to the lineup. But what they've been able to do with guys they brought up and work through the rotation, and like the emergence of a kid like Bobby Miller, who he's not fully ripened yet, but he's showing flashes of some shit like, the exiting GOAT did at 18, 19,
Mhm.
So that's the lineup is solid. Like James Outman has been a really bright spot filling that Bellinger vacancy in the lineup. Like, I mean, haven't looked at it, but I'm pretty sure he's hitting better than Cody did his last 2 seasons. He's playing a really nice center field. Mookie Betts has bounced back and forth between, with the loss of Gavin Lux. He's been playing a lot of second base and looking like a fucking Gold Glove second baseman and while doing it.
Yeah.
So, and my biggest issue with Dave Roberts has never been his ability to manage a season. It's always been his crunch time decision making in the playoff series. Like I think he made some critical errors with Boston that took away their only chance to beat them in the World Series in 2018, and he's made other maddening decisions to me. But I mean, his ability to manage a team across the season is undisputed. I mean, look at the cards he was dealt, and the Dodgers still managed to go on and win 100 games and 10th division in 12 years. While the Padres, I have to dunk on. Because I will dunk on the Padres. No, you should,
as you should.
I will dunk on the Padres, not the Braves.
What a letdown this year. What a letdown.
Oh, my God. And the shit. Okay, like I was living in San Diego when all those that was literally my last week or two in town before I hit the road for New York, was all their fucking pep rallies with Tatis and Machado and Juan Soto out there doing their not 1, not 2, not 3, not all that shit. And then they were ass the entire season. And I think they have the 2nd or 3rd highest payroll in baseball right now.
Yeah, we're number 1 with a bullet, the Mets.
Okay, yeah, I think it's Mets, Yankees, and Padres have the 3 highest payrolls in baseball or something like that.
And all 3 sitting home right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pathetic.
Yep.
Pathetic.
Tell me how Cabo is, boys.
So, the Dodgers, they win the series. They go to NLCS.
The only team that unless they shit the bed like they did in 2019 against the Nats when the Nats went on that crazy run.
Yeah.
I don't see a team other than the Braves really that's a threat in the National League. I would love to see, not something unfortunate happen, but a miracle for an underdog happen and see the Braves get knocked out and then the Dodgers see an undermatched team in the NLCS or something. But just looking at the landscape of the postseason right now, I got to think it's probably Dodgers Braves in the NLCS, and the winner of that series probably wins the World Series.
Maybe Baltimore versus
Baltimore's been really, really good.
Yeah, nice story.
If Houston breaks, if it's Houston Dodgers, there's no way. I don't see any way that the Dodgers could allow themselves to lose to Houston again.
Yeah,
like I feel like they'd use spike bats and charge mounds or something like that to prevent. There's no way. Like after what happened in 2017, that because there's still a few guys. Kershaw's still there. There's still some guys on the team. Obviously, Dave Roberts is there, and then everybody in baseball that wasn't on that team hates every one of those players and that franchise. Yeah. So you kind of got that, guys like Mookie who weren't there for it still are like, yeah, fuck those guys.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's get you out of here. Last thing, and we say the best of last. Your Lakers. It's almost around the corner.
Looking,
great offseason too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I was literally, it was funny. The other day, I didn't realize it was media day. And so I just happened to flip it on when I was doing some chores around my apartment. And everything I was hearing sounds really positive. Like you know me, I don't really follow the league well enough to know.
Well, not anymore.
Outside of marquee free agents, like day to day.
You used to, not anymore.
My brain doesn't have room for it.
Yeah.
But no, so outside of the Lakers and Dodgers, it's hard to stay up on all the league movement stuff. But no, Lakers seem like they made really good additions. They've addressed needs. They retained Austin Reeves, who wants nothing more than to be a Laker for the rest of his life. And he's on his way up. So, God bless Anthony Davis's joints, and as goes his back, will go our season.
Yeah. So there was a quote by LeBron on Media Day that he said that Anthony Davis is the face of the franchise. To me, I see that as like, okay, what he's trying to do is just trying to continue pushing the AD to be the guy. But
yeah, because you know what, LeBron's got 1 year, like this year, and one more left on his deal.
Yeah.
I think AD is signed for another 4 years beyond that.
You signed an extension like this a couple of months ago.
That's what I mean. So right. I think AD's deal is 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years beyond the close of LeBron's.
Right.
I think that's just quarterbacks doing what they do in front of cameras, you know, marquee players doing what they do in front of, like Tom Brady talked about that in the early phases of his retirement on some show, was The Shop or a podcast or something. It's like, everything I ever said in front of one of those microphones is bullshit. Like was more or less the crux of it.
I swear, players are more fun to listen to when they retire. With all
I'll wait and hear what LeBron has to say on like Knuckleheads or All the Smoke when he's out of the league. Like that's when we'll hear LeBron say some cool shit, you know, and really know what that's when they go on Knuckleheads or All the Smoke is when you know what players actually think.
But that being said, though, you know, LeBron
retired players. I mean,
right? LeBron is AD. Anthony Davis has number one talent. He's just the number one guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's look. By all logic, it should be Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis should be the better player when LeBron is, you know, turning 39 in a couple of months.
Right.
But like, LeBron's a freak of fucking nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he will mess around and put up 30 and 12 or something this year just to show us he can. So when that's the reality, and he had the season he had last year, I mean, we hear you, LeBron, but like, we're not stupid, man. Like,
How do you feel about the team this year, though, going forward? Like,
I think, again, as long as, you know, injuries are everything in the NBA, but I think the team stacks up really well. It seems like it's a recipe for good chemistry and cohesive play, which is something that in you know, years past has really hampered the Lakers.
Yeah,
and it seems like Rob Pelinka being given some runway to work and make some mistakes and not have a spotlight up his ass every time he tries to blink, you know, I think has allowed, you know, he's not holding on so tight. He's just like doing what he knows how to do, and seems like he's pretty good at it.
And I gotta say,
he's pretty good at it.
And I gotta say, as someone who was very critical of Pelinka 2 years ago, he's done a very good job of turning the ship around.
Yeah, I think it seems like he and Jeannie probably have a really good working relationship. It seems like he's probably got a pretty good working relationship with the coaching staff. So, yeah, I have no complaint. Like, I think everything's headed in the right direction. Do I think that they're, you know, a prohibitive favorite to win it or something this year? God only knows. Probably not. The league, the faces of the league have changed so much that, you know, to turn an unfortunate spotlight back on your Heat and sort of the tangential conversations to that. But man, is the league just like did a collection of owners get together? They don't like Pat Riley. Yeah,
I guess
what
not.
The fuck,
I have to confess something on the show. Now I'll say this now in hindsight. Drew Cronin for the Portland Trailblazers general manager, he was right. He was right. And given what has transpired now since that trade, and after everything's played out
explain to me what you're thinking.
In other words, if you believe that what the Heat were offering for Dame Lillard is believable, you know, Tyler Hero, 2 or 3 picks, another piece or 2 for Dame Lillard. So Cronin trades Dame, gets back a shit ton of picks, DeAndre Ayton, other pieces and all that. And gets Drew Holiday.
Well, and
then trades Drew Holiday and gets an additional 2 picks. And now he gets Brogdon and Rob Williams from Portland and 2 other pieces who now I'm sure he'll trade down the road.
Well, you know, I think more often than not when you have these big, you know, swirling carousel trades, the thing to kind of like, to me, that cuts through all the bullshit is matching star for star and kind of disregarding all the magic beans that come along with it, you know. And it's like just 1-to-1 DeAndre Ayton or Tyler Hero is probably a better acquisition for the Portland Trailblazers.
Right.
I got to think Ayton's the bigger get there.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, who knows? Because he's a big man. Longevity is always a question. Injuries are always a question. But playing
in his
style.
case, the attitude.
Well, I gotta think, man. Phoenix, for the bulk of his run there, was a pretty toxic working environment.
Maybe.
God knows that city sucks.
Ooh,
I hate Phoenix.
Oh wow,
I hate going to Phoenix.
Another podcast later. We'll talk about that. Seriously, leave that on the docket next time. No, but
it's a big like MAGA town like that permeates throughout the bulk of Maricopa County. That's one of the big reasons I don't love it there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'll have Nazi. You've had literal Nazi marches like SS uniform. Yeah, look it up. You've had like SS uniform marches in parks in Phoenix in recent years, like in the last 2-3 years.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Ugh.
Arizona's a fun state.
Yeah, but look, I want to name Miami, and I wish you had gotten it what his wish was. But Joe Cronin, look, he's not wrong. His priority is doing his best for his team, not for his player.
Yeah,
sorry.
It's gonna make his life harder in Portland unless they win within a year or two. Walking around getting his coffee and flaxseed donuts or whatever will be like.
You'll get some.
People might talk some shit.
He got some runway. He has some runway.
No, Portland's a rabid supportive fan base, and they have been for a lot longer than Dame Lillard has played there.
Correct.
So that, like, as a Laker fan, trust me, I remember like 90s and 2000s, like the Trailblazers have been a contender for 30 years. Like, pretty consistently. Like, they've had very few bad years, like objectively terrible years in the last 30 years. Like, they're right there.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily have the hardware because they ran into people like Kobe and Michael Jordan and others. But no, they are one of the best organizations of the last 3 decades.
They're definitely one of the best fan bases too, especially in the last.
100%. Like when the Rose Garden first opened the year before Staples, it was like a state-of-the-art arena. Like, no, they've always taken care of their fans in that city. Right.
Marco's good as always, man.
Yeah, man, that was a blast.
Did you delete your Twitter? You deleted that, right?
Oh yeah, the day Elon's acquisition was announced.
Yeah. By the way,
that company is such a freaking dumpster fire, man.
And guess what? In case you miss it, the shit show continues.
Yo, and also to poach a bit from one of your favorite shows, The New Abnormal. I'd like to extend a fuck that guy to Elon Musk this week. I mean, fuck that guy every day, but like a particular fuck that guy this week because he went to the border wearing his cowboy hat backwards and was like walking around like this, Marie Antoinette asshole pontificating and pointing at the border while like people are sitting in fucking zip cuffs on the other side of a fence and being treated like animals. It was just a really disgusting display that didn't have anything to do with advancing the conversation about more humane treatment or the fact that we don't follow our own federal laws on how to treat migrants seeking asylum. It was a complete shit show of a really serious issue where people are dying and people are being dehumanized. So fuck Elon Musk.
By the way, Normal was our favorite show for a long time, but that show's on a makeover. Molly's gone too.
I check in with it periodically. I actually really like Danielle and
Andy.
Danielle and Andy. I actually
are they good?
They are pretty good. It's a lot of the lib centrist stuff that makes me roll my eyes sometimes. But it's honestly it's pretty good, and they it's still the same producer. So that kind of creates a lot of the cohesiveness. They separated from things that Rick and Molly did in some ways, and then they do incorporate other things that are still kind of the heart and soul of at least like the description of the show. So no, it's worth it. I think they had a really interesting conversation with a guy who just wrote a book on like anti-science and how harmful that is to public health and public welfare. And they've had some interesting conversations on encroaching fascism. Like, no, it's really good.
As you
Doing
said,
good stuff with it.
as you say, Molly Junk Fast, she has her own podcast called Fast Politics.
Okay, is it like on her own platform or with a different?
It's on iHeart.
Okay.
But it's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm looking at the.
So she
list
left
now.
the Daily Beast.
I guess so. I
Yeah.
don't see. I know Rick is doing stuff with the product still.
Well, yeah, because he exited the show when that shit with the Lincoln Project hit the fan, right?
He wasn't even involved in that, just because the name and
No. I know he got tarnished with it because it was like his business partner was engaged in some fuckery or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's doing now the enemies list.
The what?
The enemies list.
Oh, I don't know that one. Okay.
I love.
There's so many, man. It's like I said,
up.
the ones that I listen to, like probably that I look for, are an assortment of different true crime podcasts. The Root of Evil one that explores what really happened in the case of the Black Dahlia and the Hodel family. I think it's called Root of Evil. Mm-hmm. That is one of the most fascinating podcasts I've ever listened to in my life for like the true crime, like not week to week informational kind of shit.
I need to get into the true crime stuff seriously.
The Stockton massacre, and then by the same team, they're doing an exploration of the Idaho killing of those college students. Their team is really good. They put some cool true crime shit together. I find like crime junkies and serial killers to be like a little campy, and they just go through things too quickly. They don't really they don't go. I'd rather one case could be a chronicle over like 10 episodes and really get into it. Alphabet Boys is another
true
really
crime?
Good. No, it's more of exposing government fuckery. So the first season was the FBI infiltration of the racial justice movement in Colorado in 2020, and then the current season is about this crazy case of this arms runner and this overlapping alphabet soup of different agencies, all like dick measuring and not working together, and it's just leading to calamitous results that nobody will really admit what actually happened. It's really good.
Go ahead.
But I was gonna say, like the week to week ones, it's always like Higher Learning, Behind the Bastards, and then Just Buy Less Coffee is a really good news and politics one.
You keep mentioning that show. That last one. I got to subscribe to that show seriously. Buy less coffee.
Just Buy Less Coffee. It's one of them is a teacher. She's one of the co-hosts, Kathy Cannon, is an economics and civics teacher in Florida. So that's a pretty interesting experience to hear her speak to of what it's like actually being a teacher in Ron DeSantis' Florida. And then the other guy is Troy, and I can't think of his last name.
A lot of hashtags here.
He was a teacher, I believe, and now he works at Midas Touch, the like online news outlet.
So this is a bi-weekly. Every 2 weeks they come out with a show.
Usually. Okay, so that's they're in the process of like switching over. I was literally listening to the most recent episode before we jumped on. Mm-hmm. They're in the process of like switching up how they do their like YouTube stream and everything. Okay. So they were doing 2 episodes a week. Like, so it was usually like on Tuesday they would do something that was more the like discussion and unpacking of current events, and then Thursday they would do a deep dive into a topic. And I think Tuesday show is live, but Thursday show is not. Something like that.
Are you a big reader?
Listener more, but reader some. I don't
audiobooks, right? Audiobooks, right?
Yeah, I don't read as much as I used to. I like, because the biggest problem is like I prefer to just buy the book. I don't like reading on an iPad or a computer. So ever since like I sold my house and stuff, I just don't have space to be lugged, and the probability that I'll be moving, like, so I just don't buy books like I did,
No, to your point, I
got rid of a lot of books when I moved out.
Yeah, to your point, the same way too. Like it took me a long time to get used to reading on a Kindle or iPad or on my phone, and I've also started to embrace audiobooks. I'm reading Tim Miller's book, and I think I told you that already.
Yeah, you were texting me about that one. No,
really
the one I'm still working on, and it's just I bounce back and forth, and I fall out and fall back in because it is dense and granular, but it's really important and interesting. Mm-hmm. Is Death of Democracy? How the Weimar Republic failed.
Right.
But it's like reading a textbook. It is. I mean, that is
Back in
no
school
slight,
again, buddy.
that's no slight against the writer either. It's like, it's really important information and it is really fascinating, but it's not a book you curl up with on a weekend and knock down 500 pages in 2-3 sittings. You know what I mean? It's not like reading a fantasy book.
It's a
or something
few
when I was
weekends.
like when I was in college, I would sit down with like the Wheel of Time series, which is now like a show on Prime. But like, I would read like an 1,100 pager of those in like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like sit down and like bury myself in my room, and in 10 hours I'd read like 500 pages. But this is not that.
Right. No, I love reading, man. I'm kind of getting back to the audiobooks and stuff too. It was good. Anyway, Mark, great job, man.
This was wonderful.
Awesome episode.
Always a pleasure.
We'll have you on soon again, of course.